Secretary of Anthropological Association for Humankind. Anthropological Association for Humankind came into existence on 27th February 2021, very recently. And this organization came into existence to promote anthropological knowledge and research, and to develop anthropological applications and spread anthropological applications to address the contemporary issues in order to improve the human condition across the globe. So with that sole purpose, this organization came into existence. In that process, the AAH, Anthropological Association for Humankind, has taken up interview drive to conduct interviews with the senior most anthropologists of the different countries in order to record and preserve and document and publish their seminal works, and also their accumulated wisdom and knowledge in order to develop anthropological applications, and also to tap their intended instructions for future generations, to inspire and to explore new possibilities and theoretical departures. So yeah, in that process, we have a Professor N.K.Ambasht, the India's foremost educational anthropologist, now to interview. So I request Professor Ambasht to respond to the questions. Good evening, sir. Professor Ambasht. Good evening. So my first question is, what are the ways that anthropology can make a positive difference in building stronger families, train citizens in democratic virtues, and facilitate nation building process effectively?
Well, let me start with democratic values.
Yes, sir.
Most of the societies that you have and the tribal communities, traditionally they have democracy or some form of democratic system. The panchayats, the village panchayats, the dhangar, although they pass on this from family to family, I mean, they say, but still there is a democracy because the participation of the people in the village in matters, whether of social implication or of local political implication, it is there. So it is not a new system to them. Democracy is not a new system to them. When with the idea of village panchayats, the Panchayati Raj 73rd Constitutional Amendment, if you read Balwant Raj Mehta Committee of 1955, 51, 52, they had taken the traditional organizations of the panchayat also into consideration. And much of the idea in terms of broad principles of people's participation in matters of local administration was derived from the tribal organizations like village panchayats, which they call with different names in different communities. So if you look at it, you'll find that there is a social responsibility assigned to each one of member of the community. If you study Elvin's Muria and Gotul, which I have studied in detail, and I have also participated in some of the Garo, Nukpantis, and Dumkudia, Furao, etc., etc. They have been organized, and the social organization within that particular is by training people into different kinds of roles, social roles, like that of Dhangar or like that of Pradhan or like that. So I find that if you have anthropological background, particularly of social anthropology, then you are in a better position to understand and to train people. The training in political organization and the democratic system is lacking, because anybody can be a political, political worker and become a MLA or MP. But in the tribal societies, it has been ingrained right from the very beginning through youth dormitories, the different kinds of roles that one is expected to play in their adulthood. So they come to this adulthood with a proper training, which unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. I mean, I'm not standing on merit of these systems. But what I am saying is that when they come to public life, village life, they are already trained for the jobs that they are expected to do as a Dhangar or Mato or a Parha head. That's that kind of thing. Training is already there. So I would say that based on this, if we could also have some kind of political structure within, even with the multi-party system, that people are trained in leadership. If you once during my period, I had an organization, I had an occasion of interacting with people in Panchayati Raj, Parliamentary Committee on Panchayati Raj, and George Fernandez were there. And during that discussion, I had said that there could be some kind of a training for elected members. Those who get elected to legislature or to parliament, they must get some kind of training in variety of roles that they are expected to perform for which they are not prepared. And since the system is not pre-training, let us have some kind of in-service training kind of thing when they become the members. Let them undergo some kind of training in social work and social anthropology, understanding the society and its structure, etc., etc. Somehow or the other, the idea was appreciated in that meeting, but little has been done in that direction. So you see, the tradition of the tribal societies and social anthropological background will stand in a good way to if we harness these kinds of experiences which we have had in the social organizations and social structures of these societies, it could go a long way in improving our parliamentary system and inculcating in the people the sense of responsibility and social commitment. So I see a positive side on social anthropological background, sociological background, social work. If this kind of a package is developed, that can come in good stead, and the elected representatives would be in a better position to appreciate the social needs and therefore become more relevant in the community, in the society, and there will be a sense of participation and development. which is almost lacking in the present political system. You find that everybody is trying to fend for himself, and which is so very clearly manifest. They talk about social service, but they from the very look of it, if you look at somebody talking, some neta talking about social service and community service, it is very apparent that he doesn't mean what he is saying, because he has not been trained, he has not ingrained it in his personality to be of social value. So I think if some kind of a program is developed for training of the already elected leaders with the storehouse of social anthropological knowledge, social psychological knowledge, sociological knowledge, community organization, community structure, the occupational structure, etc., then it's certainly going to be to improve the democratic society that we have. The one more thing is this: look at the organizations like panchayat, or for that matter, the village panchayat. They are always accessible to the people. They are working as a worker in the people. But also doing the social responsibility of being a leader. I recall President Sukarno, when he visited India sometime in the late 50s, he asked one neta as to, what do you do? And he said, I am a leader, I am a member of parliament. He said, yes, I know you are a member of parliament, but what do you do? He said, I am a member of parliament. He said, I understand that you are a member of parliament, but what do you do? This neta was very flabbergasted, and then he asked, what do you mean? He says, look, I am president of Indonesia. But during I work in my office as president, then I work in my field as a farmer. So I wanted to ask you, apart from being your member of parliament, what do you do? And this neta was very, he had no answer. So what I am trying to say is that some kind of this reorganization of the political system, that one is doing service for the sake of service to the community, because he feels that he is served, but that is not his sustenance. That is not his bread and butter. Bread and butter comes from somewhere else. So that kind of feeling, if not organizational restructuring, at least it should be feeling that if I am an MP, but I am also a farmer. I am an MP, but I am also a lawyer. I am an MP, but I am also a professor. I am teaching in the university. But when the parliament is in session, I am working there. So that kind of, I don't know, that is a thought that came. And I found that social anthropology, sociology, this could be of great help. Social psychology, this could be of great help in organizing, restructuring the genius and genre of the leaders. You see very successful leaders, they have spent their youth working in the community. Take Narendra Modi, for example. He has worked as Karyakarta. He has moved all over the country as a social worker. And the asset that he has gained by working with people and understanding their psychology or psyche has come in good strength when he is occupying the position of the Prime Minister of the country. He understands, because he has emoted with those people, his emotional bonding with them. So he knows where the shoe pinches, and he is trying to do. This is the kind of He had a practical training, but not all netas are from there. So we can think of devising some kind of on-the-job training. While they are still in the parliament, they must have some kind of understanding how a society works, how people react, how people respond to various programs of development and the contact, the rapport building, etc., etc.
Thank you, sir. How do anthropological training and inputs help to identify the virtues and vices of democracy so that one might moderate its harmful tendencies? Or in other words, what are the ways that the discipline of anthropology can help to see how the virtues of democracy can be strengthened and its vices be tempered? Democratic vice, I mean the tyranny of the majority, which refers to the tendency of the majority to override or suppress the rights and interests and opinions of the minority.
Well, you see, the establishment of Panchayati Raj by 1970, by 73rd Constitutional Amendment, and empowerment of the village was a step in that direction. The idea was to decentralize administration and development processes and make village panchayats as a powerful body, as a body for local self-government and development. Unfortunately, this clashed with the idea of centralizing power. And power for what? Power by itself, by definition, is that you have control over somebody. So power is undemocratic by definition. When you start controlling someone, you have power to subjugate some people. This power or power structure itself is undemocratic, non-participative. So to understand this nuance of party in power, people in power, person in power, they all tend towards a kind of aristocratic component. You see, imperial component, aristocratic component, and democratic component. I am talking in that kind of syndrome. So aristocracy, you know, the imperialism, aristocracy, and then democracy. Democracy, where the power rests with the people. Aristocracy, where certain group of people control the power. And imperialism, one person controls the power. So democracy has tended to move towards aristocracy, a certain group of people who have all the powers. But this power has been given by a process of election. So ultimately, if you see that one Mr. Let us say Sukhuma Hembrom, let us say, take an example, Sukhuma Hembrom has voted for a party or for a leader from his village. So in a way, technically, Sukhuma wields the power which he has delegated to his representative to speak for him and to work for the development of his own society. Unfortunately, this is all theoretical. what happens is the person who is elected is, if he is in government, he wields power. If he is not in government, he tries to influence the government to do something. But that whatever is done is being transferred to super or not is not, there is no mechanism to see, or there is no mandatory mechanism that it gets back to the field from where the original demand emanated. And many times, the elected representative assumes that he knows what is the need of the community without ever really considering actually seeing the need by way of some survey or no, I am not aware of any leader conducting a survey in his own constituency as to what are the priorities of the people that they require, what development processes they require. They assume that they know. Now, this is a crucial point. So if you have a technique of quick survey of the area that you represent as to what are the needs of this. And supposing for a while that you need somebody says that I need a canal going by my village, my field. Now, if you take this up, you are serving the need of that particular person or that particular. But whether this canal, which you are advocating for, is for the good of the community that you represent, and whether it will serve the purpose of majority of the people is a question. So this, if you have a background of social anthropology, sociology, social sciences for that matter, and research methodology, quick surveys, etc., then you can have very jolly good in 15 days time, you can find out that, well, canal is one of the priority, how many people are required, and what should be its course. So then you are able to project the needs of the people. So the leaders, of course, whom we elect, they may not be adept in this, they may not be. So what I'm trying to say is that all right, these people have no background in these social sciences, but they could be trained in service program, like programs, say 1 week program, intermittent program, concurrent training, etc., could be devised. And these MLAs, MPs can be put through this so that they are in a better position to emote with the people. So this is how I think that the social sciences, particularly social anthropology, can be of help in improving the governance as well as improving the society and making people feel that they are participating. It is that they are participating in the governance process. Next, please.
So the democratic virtues like equality, the human dignity, tolerance, and respect for the people, and the liberty, integrity, how these things can be really achieved at the national scale in a culturally pluralistic society like ours, India. So how anthropology can play a crucial role in facilitating these democratic virtues in the nation? What are the methods or ways to accomplish?
You see, if you look at your question, basically it boils down to understanding people. If you understand people and you are able to understand and assess their needs and aspirations, then you are perpetuating democracy. These social sciences that you have mentioned, social anthropology, sociology, social psychology, these are assistive devices which help you to understand human behavior of a particular community, why one is doing what he is doing, why his behavior is like this. So if you take example just as social psychology, crowd behavior, right? What is so distinctive about crowd behavior? That the crowd feels that I am not identifiable and therefore I can take liberties and behave in a manner I will not be caught. The idea of social control, the basic of the crime and punishment, the social control, the component of social control, one of the basic factors is that if you are identified as behaving in a unapproved manner or contrary to the approved set of behaviors, then you will have fear of punishment. The moment your punishment, that fear is removed, your behavior becomes unguarded, unrestricted. And so the idea of social control, apart from this crowd behavior, if these people understand, those who are supposed to be doing good for our community, those who are in parliament, those who are in this, if they understand the basics of crowd behavior and control, then the elements of social control which we study in social psychology is it comes in handy. And devices, for example, take the cases of why these cameras have been put at every nook and corner. Now, go into the psychology of these cameras. CCTV cameras have been put up in various places. The psychology of CCTV camera is that the unapproved behavior by an individual or a set of individuals can be detected and they could be identified, and therefore they could be brought to the books. So this is a deterrent. This is a deterrent against crime, against criminal activity. So crowd behavior was ensuring that the people will not be identified and therefore they take liberties with their in their actions. This CCTV cameras has become a big deterrent because now they know that if they do unapproved behavior, if you can do something which is not approved by the society, they will be, they can be brought to book. So look at this, the socio-psychological base. Are you listening? Hello? 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 Well, let me continue. I don't know whether you are able to see me or not, but hello, hello.
Sir, due to power cut, here we had a power cut, sir. Now I got connected again. Please continue, sir.
Right. So I was talking about the deterrent role of CCTV cameras. Now, the
Yes.
psychology behind that was that if you are able to, if you know that your actions are being watched, then you are the social control, the elements of social controls are there. The moment you realize that you are not being watched or you will not be caught while doing not socially approved actions, then you take liberties. So the understanding of this basic theoretical background, among the people who are in policy making, they would do better than what they are doing now. So I think the question that you raised is, if I were the one to I would give some kind of condensed courses, right from village panchayat leaders to Zila Panchayat to legislature, members of legislature, to parliamentarians, and also to administrators. So if they understand why they are doing what they are doing, or what they ought to do in a given sociological, social, anthropological, or society as such, which is relevant to our country's traditions, culture, etc., etc., then it will be, what do you do with a person who has done his IAS with Arabic and this, and becomes an IAS? He doesn't, and if he is not conversant with the local tradition and this, or a person who has done IAS with Sanskrit as major, so they need to be sensitized. And social sciences is the emerging area where it is used maximally to in the administration. So both political masters need to be trained as to how to identify themselves with the people, how to establish rapport, how to assess the needs, how to make your constituents feel as if you are one of them and you are accessible to them. The other day I tweeted somebody was saying the security, etc. But the basic idea that if you are representing somebody, some people, why should you be protected from them? And I mean, philosophically speaking, practically it may not be possible. There may be one reconciled person who may take vengeance on you. That's another matter. But ideally speaking, if you are representing your people, why should you be protected by your own people? I have not seen any village panchayat or para panchayat leader going with the guard. So that's it. I think those who may be listening to me may be thinking that I am overdoing the role of social sciences. But in where you have to interact with people, You are not interacting like physics and chemistry with inanimate people or the objects like matter and other things. You are interacting with people, and when you are interacting with people, social sciences become very, very important area. And in social sciences, we have, although we have compartmentalized it in different subject matters, but social sciences as such, taken cumulatively, is a basic must if you have to interact with the society, interact with people, interact with community. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. The next question is democratic tyranny, tyranny of the majority, the domination of the majority in overriding the rights and opinions and interests of the minorities. How to temper or moderate that kind of attitudes, and what anthropology has to offer as a discipline which commits itself to study people by people, and what anthropological insights and understandings can offer to fix this issue of democratic vice, means the majority, tyranny of the majority to trample the tendency to trample the rights and interests and opinions of the minorities.
Well, this is a question that strikes at the very basic of society. The tyranny of majority is known, if you have studied political science, then there is a term called aristocracy. Where the dissent of the minority or the small community is overridden. So there is always a danger of democracy turning into an aristocracy with absolute majority of the majoritarian community. This is the inherent structural, I would say. But if you study social sciences, and if you have a background of social sciences, then you would be able to discern the commonalities of a particular society and the ecological or population structure, and see what are the common areas which affect all the electorate, and what are the special areas that need to be catered to according to the local specificity. Take, for example, communities like Santhal Pargana. Okay, I'm taking anthropological because you are an anthropological organization. I'm taking those. The Santhal Pargana, there is Sauriya Pahadiya, Mal Pahadiya, Santhals, and there is a study by my very esteemed good friend, late Dr. Saileshwar Prasad, where the three tribes meet of Ranchi University. And he has analyzed that what are the common areas in which these three distinct tribes with distinct kind of set of values, when they come together, what are the commonalities and where are the differences? So this kind of understanding of areas of cooperation and conflict, I am using this word very, areas of cooperation and conflict. If we are able to identify and bookmark that these are the areas that are common. So majority and minority is, for example, food need, right? Need for shelter, need for electricity, need for gas, need for good street. This is common for all, right? The religious freedom, the need to pray, is the area of difference. So what are the programs that is catering to the overall general satisfaction of those needs which are in common areas? And what special programs need to be developed or nurtured or protected or given protection, etc., in consonance with the special needs of those communities. So what I am trying to once again emphasize, that if you have a social anthropological background, the study of Dr. Saleshwar Prasad, late in 1968, perhaps he did his PhD in Ranchi University under Vidyarthi, 1968. The title is Where the Three Tribes Meet, the Areas of Cooperation and Conflict. So this kind of studies, if one is conversant with, one would be able to solve many of these problems. There are general needs which go along with other with all the community, and there are specific needs which answer to specific needs. So the both need to be nurtured and both need to be protected and encouraged. So not one at the cost of the other. So the question of majority and minority can be resolved when we take the common desideratum of the needs of the entire set of people, and then specific needs of certain sector of people or sections of people, and try to redress or try to answer or try to satisfy those needs. So that is where the majority minoritism can only be solved with this kind of approach, where you have studied, where you have seen what are the areas. You have to list out that these are the areas where both types of majority and minority have common need, and this needs to be satisfied. But at the same time, what are the specific needs of each community, and how to adjust them? And if there is a need for any social action with regard to making people understand, appreciate, live with these kinds of, if somebody is, supposing, take for example, the most common, the prayer, right? There is a conflict now that everybody, a community wants to pray anywhere, and even on the road. The other sector says that I am being inconvenienced. There is somebody is using loudspeaker for calling the faithful. Others say I am getting disturbed. Somebody is bringing the bell in the temple, and the others say I am being. So these are the small cultural practices, socio-religious cultural practices that are leading to a conflict situation. If you are a social anthropologist or a social sociologist, you would be able to find that where is some commonalities merging together. What kind of social adjustment or need to program or need to develop mass communication processes through which you can make them understand and live together. Living together can be promoted by which kind of activities. So the problem is that if you are adamant and you said, I will have my own way, without understanding the other's point of view, then this is already the area of conflict. So cooperation and conflict, these are the two terms that need to be very assiduously studied, analyzed, and common desideratum, a common action plan to make adjustments without hurting any of these two partners or communities. For this, if you have background of social understanding, social adjustment, these kinds of some theoretical background on this, it may be of help.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's wonderful. Uh, democratic virtue, like the question of tolerance in the multiplicity of faith context, or the culturally pluralistic society like us, tolerance is much appreciated virtue. And tolerance to what extent? Freedom to what extent? Liberty on what parameter? What are the parameters? If judiciary to come into existence and draw the line, tolerance to this extent, or kind of thing. So in maintaining the order in the society, in delivering the good governance, in delivering the social and political and economic justice to the citizens of the nation, and what anthropological insights and understandings has to offer in addressing the important issues like tolerance to what extent, and in assisting the judiciary in that line, in facilitating the peaceful social coexistence, so that the country can make progress in living together, in achieving the order, and really the catering the needs of the development of the people, irrespective of the community background or religious background or social background.
Well, as I said in my earlier exhortation with you, tolerance by itself is a term laden with set of value. That means you are tolerating although you don't like, right? Tolerance has that kind of connotation that from inner side you don't like, but you are tolerating it because you can't do anything else. The improvement over this terminology tolerance is adjustment. So, as I said earlier, just now, living in cooperation and coordination, etc., is the higher order of tolerance. So if you are trying to live in a composite culture, composite society, then essentially the element of cooperation, adjustment is a necessary attribute without which you cannot live. You are dependent on your neighbor. If you fall sick, you are alone. Only your neighbor will come, whether he will of this community or that community, to help. So it is not that he is tolerating you, he is coming to you under the label of cooperation, coordination, living together, etc., etc. So adjustment is the better word for tolerance. That is one basic aspect. The your second part was with regard to judiciary, composite society. So in any society which is heterogeneous in social practices, religious beliefs, there has to be a common desideratum that is derived. And that becomes the plank of all the social order that we have, leaving enough scope for variance. For example, in a democratic country like India, there is a certain behavior pattern that is common to all. But there are regional variations, there are religious variations, there are community-wise variations, caste-wise variations. These are the different orders. Smaller order, bigger order, still bigger order, still bigger order. So, as a social scientist, I would I would study the different societies, tribes, caste, try to find out what is the common desideratum on which the entire political structure and administrative structure has to be based. And the laws. Then there are specific laws. One is the common civil code, civil procedure code, a common criminal procedure code. But then there are other laws, Hindu Marriage Act, Muslim Act, Personal Law Board, etc., etc. Tribal societies, they have their own traditional laws and just social injustice systems. So these are within Chotanagpur Tenancy Act, for example, which includes the land parceling, etc., etc. Chotanagpur Tenancy Act is operative in the entire Chotanagpur division, that is now Jharkhand, that area. So the Civil Procedure Code is not is overridden by the local code. So land parceling, land distribution, etc., etc., is governed by that in that area. So this is in the larger gamut. And then there are specific laws dealing with the community and variations in the community or social organizations. So the question is not that simple. Your question is very intricate in the sense, where do we draw a line? But I would again reiterate that if you are a social scientist, you must understand and be able to draw a line that this whole bulk, this bulk is, say, common. And then on these are the peripherals, which answer to the specific needs of a specific community or a specific area or a specific region or a specific religion. So the common being universal in nature in the context of India. Human rights. Human rights is universal in nature, which operates throughout the world, right? But it does not control the local specific rights of the communities in India or others. Human rights are were devised taking into account various practices. What are the human common desideratum throughout the world? What is that right to liberty? Everybody has right to live. So right to live is found in all the communities, all the society. You are not at liberty to take away the life of any person. So this is the human rights. But within that, one gets capital punishment for some offenses as prescribed by the local individual nations. Penal system, Indian Penal Code, Section 302. Now, if a person who has been awarded death sentence cannot take recourse to human rights and saying that right to life is universal, and therefore I am. So, but that has to be in the context that if we are all right, you have right to life, but you have no liberty to take anybody else's life. So you see this kind of, so there is a big canvas, and then there are inner canvases like national, and within the nation, the community, the society, the local practices, the customs and folkways and mores. These are some of the things that you see. You are an anthropologist. You know what a folkways is, what is a mores is. So folkways, mores are specific to a specific community, a specific tribe, etc., etc. But they are under the total purview of the nationally approved practices, which are governed by its laws, civil laws and the criminal laws.
It is very interesting, sir, how judiciary interprets justice in the multicultural context, because they have their own local judicial systems embedded in their own cultures, and how the national and the state level and district level judiciary interprets justice for each community. And I think in that direction, anthropology has to say something. What do you say, sir?
Well, there are, if you look at the Indian jurisprudence, legal system, there are certain categories of laws which are called customary laws, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
Your question relates to that particular area, customary laws. And customary laws are given weightage in the courts. That, for example, let me take one example. Marriage by elopement. There are 8 types of marriages in anthropology, sororate, levirate, all this. Now, sororate, levirate, or marriage by elopement is recognized by the Civil Procedure Code as a customary law of the particular time. It may not be recognized among the Hindus or the caste people or Brahmins and others, but it is recognized. Take the case of polyandry, right? Polyandry is recognized as a customary law among the Tharus. Take the case of what you call Garos, who are matrilineal society. Their succession laws are recognized as customary laws. The property from mother to daughter goes. The husband has no role, the father has no role, he doesn't have any claim to the property, which is in contravention or in contradiction to
Hello, sir. I'm not able to hear you.
Well, I was saying, what was the last sentence that you heard?
You are saying that the customary laws. You are giving a Indian the tribal example.
Yeah. You see, I was giving you where there is a
matrilineal
society, the property. So the matrilineal society, the Civil Procedure Code does not apply in the Khasi, Garo, and other places. So local customary law have a legal sanctity, and they get precedence over the general civil code. So there, this is a basically. But when it comes to criminal laws and the laws that are impinge on somebody else's liberties or somebody's life, then perhaps this kind of local variance is not possible. It's a question of where do you draw a line and where do you give precedence to what over customary laws and civil laws and the National Criminal Procedure Code, etc., etc. For example, murder is a murder, and it will be governed by Criminal Procedure Code, Indian Penal Code, and so this is more or less settled. So where there is a civil cases, yes, the local laws are seen in that context.
Yeah, for example, the human sacrifice, the practice of human sacrifice, some people say it is still there in some tribals in interior forests. They do offer human sacrifice to get the better agricultural yield. That kind of practice is how the judiciary takes, and the right to life is violated there in that customary or the belief.
As I said, that in criminal cases, the cases which fall under the criminal laws, the customary laws don't apply very clearly. So if human sacrifice takes place, then it is punishable, it is punished. There are instances where they have been punished with death and other kinds of things. So it is not an accepted, because human life is sacrosanct. Under Human Rights Commission, under human rights or the national civil laws, criminal laws, or even with the local community. So when there is a clash between the local practices and the laws, the law will get precedence.
Yeah, that's wonderful, sir. Coming to this discrimination, social discrimination or social segregation, any discrimination on any ground like caste, creed, gender, religion, or region. So how this discipline of anthropology can really help the government in delivering the good governance on these grounds, in the, delivering the social justice against the discrimination that is prevailing across the communities or the country.
You see, discrimination, positive and negative. Positive discrimination is special incentives that one gives to certain communities by way of compensating with the perpetual neglect or all that reservations that you get under to scheduled tribes, scheduled caste, and other backward classes are positive discrimination. But discrimination, negative discrimination, that you are discriminating on basis of caste, gender, religion, etc., to their disadvantage is not right, constitutionally not right. So the study of social anthropology in terms of the representation of the certain community, all the scheduled tribe communities into the employment and other, this becomes very necessary, and this becomes important when you are applying positive discrimination in terms of reservations, in terms of special incentives, in terms of providing a special training program for entry into the civil services, etc., etc. So, or that you are providing a special incentive in terms of bicycles to trek to the school, or providing some kinds of other incentives. These are positive discrimination, so that the traditional backwardness or neglect is compensated, and that they are brought to a level on an equal footing, level playing field. So these are positive discrimination. This is permissible, but negative discrimination with on the basis of caste, tribe, creed, etc., is again illegal and can be challenged in the court of law.
Sir, do you think anthropologists should come up with certain curricula or the coursework to train the civil servants and the legislature bodies and executive, and to equip them for understanding the culture, and at the same time the tools of social sciences which are effective in delivering the good governance?
Yeah, thank you. I have already discussed this, that there is a need for some kind of in-service training for civil servants as well as for political leaders. I dealt with this in the question. If you remember, there used to be a tribal orientation study centers, 4 in India: Ranchi, Udaipur, Chhindwara, and one more at one place. So they, in-service civil servants were made to go and study there and see their that whatever they know, how it is applied in tribal areas. Social anthropology was the major input. I lectured at some of them at Ranchi, Tribal Orientation Study Center, Ranchi, where the civil servants, right from IAS to provincial civil services, would come for short-term training. So I have already pleaded that everybody who is in the area of social interaction and administration in the society must have understanding of the society, the social ways, folkways, customs, etc., and see how it can be proactively used for the purpose for which they are employed. So I think there is need, and I don't know whether during my course of discussions with you for the last 4 or 5 episodes, I don't know whether I made a mention of or not that I have pleaded for inclusion of on-the-job training in the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy, that every professional IAS must be given a training as a social worker without any paraphernalia of a peon or a car or a jeep or a quarter, even not a quarter. And he be given the indicators of various parameters, the development of a village assigned to village. And after a year of field work, let us see what change he has made, and then be inducted into service. So that is of course very inconvenient to the aspiring people who know that they have been, if they have competed in IAS, they are there to rule. But the very attitude of they are in service, they are not in rule. IAS, Indian Administrative Service. Service must be emphasized with capital S, capital E, capital R, etc., etc. So this need or this this psyche of service needs to be ingrained in these people. Many of them are very, I have come across very serious, very good IAS people, very senior IAS people who are imbued with service. But not all. Many of them think that they are there to rule. And I think I have made a mention of the British service. I think I have made it, so I did not repeat it. But service is the major, I would say, the major determinant of the cadre. If service is emphasized, then perhaps there will be a lot of improvement in that.
Yeah, for service to render the services to the into the context. That's where anthropology creeps in and matters. And also because every culture specific, community specific, and the context specific solutions. In offering that kind of context specific solutions, anthropology has to offer a lot. That is the space where anthropology's role is crucial.
Two major components come here. One is empathy, that the person who is administering or who is there, he has to empathize with the people and see the phenomena from the point of view, from the view of those people whom he is there to serve. The other one is service, that he is there to empathy, service, and service and empathy can go by participant observation. So I would if I were given the opportunity to design their courses, I would emphasize on participant observation. So everybody, and participant observation is certainly a methodology of social anthropology and sociology, of course. So if they are trained in being part of the community, this is three stages. Participant observation is you are envisaging a phenomena, then you participate among the people and try to look at that phenomena from their point of view. Then you will develop an understanding of why a phenomena is happening and why these people are behaving or acting in a manner that they are acting. Then you come out of that situation, and as a social scientist, you see what kind of interventions need to be made so that the sense and sensibilities of the participants, of the local people, are also not hurt and the objective of development is achieved. So if there is a need for recalibrating the program in a manner that it is acceptable to the people and people start participating in that, you should have that. So participant observation is one of the very, very important component in administration.
Recently, I have observed that Indian Civil Services Examination, Union Public Service Commission has introduced a paper called Aptitude, Ethics, Aptitude and Integrity. A paper called Ethics, Aptitude and Integrity. So the virtues of civil servants and the worldwide philosophers, what are their contributions to virtues, to understand the ethics, and how they made it compulsory at the mains examination, they have to secure good marks to clear the civil services. Otherwise, no, I have a question that why it is introduced, and if it is introduced at a few years back, why it was not introduced in the earlier stage, and is it the right stage to introduce?
Right, right.
And
You have
at
asked the
what
question.
exactly, what is the time to introduce that course? What is the stage, appropriate stage to introduce that course? These are the three questions.
Well, let me thank you for raising this question. In fact, it is I was a part of the movement that persuaded UPSC to introduce this course on ethics and etc.
Wow. Wow.
Actually, I have been working in the area of human values for quite some time, and a lot of things that I have worked. So one with Mr. M.K. Cow, who was earlier the secretary of MHRD, he and I were working very intensely on this area. And we thought that the bureaucracy that comes into, I mean, they need to have certain kinds of understanding, living together, emoting with people, and so, and right values, truth, righteous conduct, peace, etc., etc. So we had been working behind the scene, and Mr. Cow used his clout in the UPSC to introduce this paper, because we thought that administration without human values, without the values that upright, righteous conduct, without adherence to truth, etc., is not desirable. And there must be some kind of proactive understanding of basic idea of living together in peace, in harmony, etc., etc. So we kind of persuaded them, and in the initial stages, we also participated in question framing, etc., etc. But now I am not associated. I have been paper setter examiner of civil services for about 15, 16 long years of general studies. But this is a later phenomenon. I told them that after 2003 that I have no time, or I am not interested in continuing with this. But it is after 2005, I started working in the area of human values. And quite a few papers, international seminars, etc., have been. Now I have forgotten to take account of what has been done by me. But certainly this is an area where I feel sort of some kind of professional satisfaction that I have been able to bring this. Not I must. We have been able to bring this into the system of civil services. So I hope you understand that if you are not imbued with these kinds of values, then you can't have the what you call empathy with whom you are administering. You see, the administering by itself is a very is a term laden with certain kind of values, that you are giving something. The moment you think that you are a giver and somebody is a receiver, that distance is the psychic distance is created. So administration and service, these are two contradictory words. I have been arguing that you could not have administration and service together. But anyway, I'm gratified that this came into the UPSC. The idea was simply that there is an empathy, an element of empathy that as a human being, as a human society, common desideratum of all values, all practices. If you take universal human values, you can say non-violence, living in peace together, righteous conduct, truth. These are some of the common desideratum that comes out throughout the universe. So these are the basis of this ethics paper. They call it ethics, right? They didn't call it human values, although I would have loved to call it human values, but they said, okay, I think we will put it ethics. I said, okay, have something, then nothing.
So my question is it the right thing to introduce that thing at the civil services examination, this thing, or should this course be introduced at the school level, or what is the right thing to do?
You are right. It should start from a very school level. I'm still working on that. I am persuading with whatever policy makers are there, or the material development. My individual efforts is there. That human values is. I always use a word. Why are you teaching what you are teaching? So what do you want to derive? And it turns into the behavior modification. Behavior modification is the basic thing. Now, the other things you can get from Google and other information you can get from Google, but Google will not modify your behavior. So major task of school is going to change. And that is behavior modification, that you know how to get information and how to. The basic idea of a school is to influence your personality, the way you think, right? So this is at work. I'm not saying that it wasn't at work, it was at work, but deliberately every teacher, if you ask any teacher of any, why are you teaching this particular lesson? The answer would be examination, information that is contained, the questions at the bottom of the lesson. But hardly does any teacher tell that it will modify the behavior of the learner. All right? That is the stress point that I am making these days at various forums, at various seminars, at various government interaction, and etc., etc.
So that is an amazing project, because at the national scale and implementing this value education or character education is the building block, the backbone of the nation building. If this sector of education or this sphere of education is ignored as it was done in the past, so there is no hope for the future, in the future for the nation. What do you say, sir?
Now, I agree with you. I agree with you. It's high time that we should concentrate on, pardon me by repeating, that every teacher must know why he is teaching that particular lesson. What is the ultimate intention of including in the book? Is it information and reproduction in the examination? Or is it modifying the behavior in terms of personality attributes of the child? Let me give you one small example. You are teaching a student, let us say, area in mathematics, and you ask him, what is the length of this room and what is the breadth of this room? And he sees and says, 8 to 10 feet in length, 7 feet in breadth. Now I ask him, 8 to 10, what is the percentage of error? And it comes to as big as 20%, right? So estimation that I wanted to, the precision, the value was precision, to be precise, to be very objectively precise. That has not been achieved, right? So the intention of including that lesson, apart from the what you call knowledge of calculating the area, length and breadth, was also estimation and precision. The attribute precision is a subjective issue. No teacher ever gives any stress on precise estimation. He only gives you 8 by 6. You multiply this and this is the square feet of area. Fine, you get 100% marks. But what about your estimation? So what I'm trying to say is that the intent of lesson needs to be either articulated in the lesson itself or need to be understood by the teacher who is transacting the process. And that is why I use the word, and people have started calling me, why are we teaching what we are teaching, wala teacher aa gaya.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
The teacher needs to look into the content and try to understand why this has been included here. Why not anything else? If he asks this question, then he will be able to answer or decipher the hidden intent of the lesson.
So we need to develop a tool to trace the behavioral implications of each lesson that is included in the syllabus or curriculum.
Right. I have been stressing, you have caught it. You see, I have been stressing that we must change from expected learning outcomes of the curriculum to expected behavioral outcomes. What kind of behavior modification will have? Because learning outcome now you can have Google and whatever you have, all these sources where you get most updated information. So the purpose of schooling is to behavior modification, and that is why the books should state the expected behavior or outcome after having understood or having learned this lesson. This kind of behavior modification will happen.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir, I have one or two questions related to the future anthropology, young anthropologists. So what are the suggestions that you give to this present day university faculty, anthropologists who are working on the university campuses and the college campuses? What are the suggestions that you give to them? Because they are training the future anthropologists. So what are the suggestions?
I would give a stress to number one, applied anthropology must be, anthropology must come out of the academic domain to applied domain more prominently, number one. Number two, field work and participant observation. These areas, if we strengthen them, then the better understanding of the community or the society that which we are studying, and our worth as applied on the applied side of administration and every other field, every field of activity, if you develop a kind of a empathetic attitude towards the community that you are studying, it leads to better understanding, and it helps to uh, uh, to work in the community, whether it is under administration, whether it is in teaching, whether it is take, for example, a teacher of physics. Now, if you have the basic understanding of participant observation, then you transport your mindset to that of the child and try to find out what is the problem, what is the point in which the child is facing difficulty from his point of view. And then at that level, try to alleviate that problem, and the learning pace should be done. I give you one example. I was working with the children of class 5, and I found that multiplication, etc., the child was doing very well, but division, in certain division, he felt he was not doing well. So I thought that I would go to his level, and I started talking to that. Do you know division is a successive subtraction? He said, yes. I said, all right. Now I give you subtract 8 out of 10. And he flumburst. So I said, why? Why is it not? I said, you borrow 1 from the left, from the 10th place, and bring it here. It becomes 0 plus 10 is 10. Out of that 10, you take out 8, 2 is remaining. And on the 10th side, there was only 1. There is nothing. He said, it cannot happen. I said, why? He said, my teacher had told me that in one column, there can be only 1 single digit. And when you borrow from the 10th level, it has become a 2-digit number, and 2-digit number can't be there in one column. So the problem was there, and it had to be rectified by demonstration and other things. So the problem was in subtraction, which was being manifest in division, right? So what I took the recourse to participant observation. I started working from his mindset and tried to find out why is he having difficulty. And then when I could discern, then I could remedy. Demonstrate with bags of 10 pebbles, 100 pebbles, singles outside the bag. So I could rectify his learning not, K-N-O-T, not, right? So this is the kind of understanding that one needs to. I applied that process of participant observation, going into the psyche of the learner, then seeing the problem from his vision, and tried to find out what are the difficulty and then rectify. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, then what are the suggestions that you give to the practitioners, people who want to enter into practicing anthropology in NGOs or in corporate sector or in the government sector, the international NGOs? So what are your suggestions to the people who are aspiring to practice anthropology?
I would suggest only one thing, that whatever you study in your textbook, in your theory, extrapolate it to the field situation and apply. See what you have learned is relevant in this context. And you will find that you will be immensely successful in working with community, because that is what whether it is social organization or this, whatever you study in your textbook, that is a theory. But applied side and actual application in the field to understand the problems, so applied anthropology as is obtained in the actual field situation would be a great asset to every anthropologist, whether working as a teacher or an administrator or as a UNESCO worker or a UNICEF worker or whatever you want to. It really gets great help, great help. Well, after all, you are working with the community, and working with the community is social anthropology or social sociology. Whichever community you are working, whether it is a rural community or a tribal community, you are working with the people. And to have an empathetic relationship with the people with which you are working is certainly an asset. You are no more outsider. You are the one among them, and they confide into you with regard to various problems that they have. Not confidential problem, even the problems of social development, etc. So you can understand how they are feeling, how they are taking the programs, what are the kind of areas where there is some kind of discord or dissatisfaction, how it can be managed. As I said, you see, identifying the learning knot, the knots, KNOTS, right? And rectifying that. That kind of skill is available only in a social anthropologist or sociologist. So this is going to be of great help. Thank you.
Sir, finally, what are the suggestions that you want to give to the Ministry of Education with respect to the discipline of anthropology? If you are given the opportunity, because you are the former chairman of the National Institute of Open Schooling, and also you are part of the parliamentary committees and also the international delegation on behalf of our nation, India. And with all these years of accumulated wisdom and knowledge, particularly in the specialized area of education, and if at all your voice is heard and given top priority, so then in that context, what would you suggest to the Ministry of Education with respect to the discipline of anthropology? Because the situation of anthropology in our nation, India, is on the deathbed. Departments are shutting down, and recruitments are not really done, and whereas other disciplines are sustainably continuing on the university campuses, whereas anthropology is not being included in all the universities, in all the colleges. So in this kind of situation, what would you suggest to the Ministry of Education?
Well, as far as I am concerned, I would urge them to emphasize applied anthropology, applied side of anthropology to be a major component in almost all universities, if my voice is heard. Because that is where you develop some kind of empathetic relationship with the community and the programmers and the implementers. And for university people, I would suggest that they come out of this purely academic textbook kind of anthropology and emphasize application of various anthropological theories or understanding. So when you reach my age, you will find that anthropology has applications on a very vast field of human activity. But I don't know why we in the universities have kept ourselves in a watertight compartment of anthropology as something which is to be studied in books and given and answered that Hashgowitz's theory of culture is this, Margaret Mead is this, Alana is this, Jamaica is this. But how Margaret Mead's study is relevant to the present day society? What are the techniques that Mead adopted in participant or growing up in Samoa? She observed the participant observation. Everybody is bothered about what was written on page number so and so, what did she say? But nobody, the methodology that she adopted, is it applicable to our situation? So this is the kind of thing that universities should emphasize, because as I said, the information is available on the Google and many other platforms. What is not available is the behavior modification of a social scientist. You can write about Margaret Mead or Herskowitz pages and pages and pages and pages. But do you start seeing that the analyzing the culture in art and artifacts of as Herskowitz pleaded? He gave you a theory out of a certain observation. But we have to take that theory back to the field situation and see how culture is being reflected in art and artifacts. The archaeology is predominantly nothing but studying from art and artifacts. You are trying to build up an image of the culture at that time, isn't it? So there is some kind of interlinkages between the. As a social anthropologist, am I able to identify this this and make use of this in my day-to-day life or in my studies? So what I am trying to emphasize is take this theoretical knowledge and test it by applying it in the present day situation, in the society at large. This capacity of taking this theoretical knowledge in the background of my mind and observing the ground situation, trying to match and see how relevant that theory is and what kind of understanding it can create in me, so that I am able to appreciate the social phenomena that I am seeing around. So that is the kind of universities should also have a fresh look at their curricula. Applied side needs to be. I would suggest that if you have 2 years of master's program, spend 1 year in the field, really in the field. Send them to Garo Hills, send them to Khasi Hills, see what is a matrilineal society is, how it is operating, what was the theory at that time and how it has evolved. The decisions now, the male is also taking decision in the family, in the matrilineal society, in Khasi Hills and Garo Hills and Jaintia Hills. So, simply reading this, what kind of modification has come? In 1966, when I studied Garos, what was then and what is now? So it is, I mean, lot of field work, lot of application of theory in the field and practice. Unless these two are balanced in a proper way, no good anthropology discipline would evolve. keeping, sending them for 15 days in 2 years' time to field work and then coming back and writing a report, which is mostly copied from the previous reports. That's not serious. That's not serious. I'm worried about it. Thank you. Shall I say thank you?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Professor
Thank you.
N.K.Ambasht, for
And
your valuable time.
thanks to all listeners. This is our last episode. Thank you very much for your patience. I know it has been very longish. Every episode is very longish. I have requested Dr. Gadde to make it smaller so that the interest is sustained. Thank you once again. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for your valuable wisdom and instructions for the anthropologists and practitioners and future courses to be designed, and also to the your valued accomplishments regarding to the Indian Civil Service examination and regarding the school education in India, and for all these things, the country will be remembering your services, sir. And my heart is filled with the gratitude, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for your valuable.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.